أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. Hi Zainab, hi Zainab, hi Zainab, hi Zainab. जब रिदा सर से छीनी मैं सदा देती रही तू न आया गाजी आले इमरान कहाँ और जिंदान कहाँ ये बहन कैद हुई तू न आया गाजी हमको पानी ना मिले तेरी खुशबू तो रहे तेरे बाजू न कटे चाहे मशकी जाची दे ये मगर हो न सका तेरे बाजू है जुदा मुझ पे है तशना लबी तू न دھوپ میں تو تھا شجر تجھ سے آباد تھا گر ہے برہنا میرا سر کیا نہیں تجھ کو خبر اے علمدار وفا اس بہن کو باخدا تجھ سے ڈھارس تھی بری تو نہ آیا غازی آ گئی شام علم لٹ گئے ہیں لے حرم ریت پر جلتی ہوئی ہو گیا ٹھنڈا علم پرسہ دینے کے لیے مجھ سے ملنے کے لیے آ گئے بابا علی تو نہ آیا غازی کیا کہوں شعر میرے بیردہ ہم کو لیے یہ مسلمان سارے شہر در شہر گئے خلقت کوفہ کبھی خلقت شام کبھی اور ہاں ہم پہ ہنسی تو نہ آیا غازی کتنی بے باس تھی بہن اے شہنشاہ وفا نام لے لے کے میرا جب یہ ظالم نے کہا ناز تھا جس پہ تجھے اب بلاؤ نہ اسے اور میں روتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی قید خانے میں قضا جب سکینہ کو ملی دیکھ کے کرتے کفن بچی دفنائی گئی اس گری نام تیرا صورت ناد علی دکھ میں دہراتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی جب ردا سر سے چھینی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی محمد وعلی محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sheikh Abbas Ismail, my respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let us remember all marhumin listed on the screen as well as all other marhumin with the Surah Mubarakat al-Fatiha. Let us also remember all those in need here and elsewhere, as well as all those listed on the screen with the Dua Shifa Maris. Let us recite together. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Amma yujibul mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء يا Allah. Let us now invite Sheikh Abbas Ismail to please come forward for tonight's majlis. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat.
Bismillah.
محمد وآل محمد صلاة
Allahumma salli wa ali. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض مولانا حجة ابن الحسن عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. اللهم صل على محمد. ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يهاجر في سبيل الله يجد في الأرض مراغما كثيرا وسعة. صدق الله العلي العظيم. بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على. My respected elders, brothers, sisters, as I mentioned on Monday when we celebrated the wiladat of the first Imam, that the theme, inshallah, on this visit of mine is going to be the theme of spirituality. And this subject has come from where? This subject has come from conversations with the members themselves, members of our Jamaat. They have requested such a thing, and it's not just one or two people. Repeatedly I've heard that this subject would be a good subject, inshallah, to address. So we'll try our best. However, please bear in mind a couple of things. Number one, I need your help. For us to really benefit from these lectures properly, we have to help each other. I need your help in the sense that these lectures, see, spirituality is not a one lecture, you give the lecture, spirituality is there. It doesn't work like that. This is one of the subject matters that we're going to discuss, that what is spirituality? When we say, for example, in our house we have a lack of spirituality, or if we say, for example, in our Jamaat we have a lack of spirit, or in this community we have a what does that mean exactly? What are you looking for when we say spirituality? What is spirituality? So spirituality is not just something in a one lecture that we can discuss and we can say, job done. This will have to be a number of lectures nicely fitted together one after the other, which come in a logical sequence, for us to understand and grasp this concept. And of course, the whole thing is that we don't want to just understand spirituality, right? Anyone, anywhere, any religion, any even atheist can look into spirituality and have a discussion on it. We want to practice it. Yes or no? Do we want to practice it, or we just want to know about it? We want to practice it. You know the famous alim, Sayyid Bahrul Ulum, rahmatullah alayhi, may Allah elevate his status in the hereafter, inshallah. He was a great alim of Najaf. He was a great alim of Najaf. And his dars, his lessons were very, very popular. He was the outstanding alim of that time. Very famous, very spiritual. One day, he's giving his dars, one day, at the time of his dars, lesson, class, the students arrive and they see Sayyid Bahrul Ulum has not arrived. This was a shock, because this never happens. For Sayyid Bahrul Ulum to miss a class is unheard of. Okay, so they speak amongst themselves. They speak amongst themselves. Ya Allah. And they chit-chat, and basically the students come to the conclusion that there must have been some kind of emergency. Something must have happened. God forbid he's not well, or maybe something in his family, maybe some kind of critical thing has happened. So they go away. The next day they come again, expecting the teacher to be there. Again, he's not there. Now even more concerned that what is going on? This man never misses a class. He never misses any lesson. But they said, okay, maybe this emergency has gone along more time than usual. Third day he doesn't turn up. Now it's alarming. Now they say there's something, God forbid, maybe he's passed away from this world. Is he on death's door? What is it? So they go to his house. Knock on the door, he opens, they see he's fine, he's standing. They said, Ustad, everything okay? What is going on? We haven't seen you at the class for 3 days. So he says to them, yeah, I'm thinking let's just cancel everything. They say, Ustad, what do you mean cancel everything? What does that mean? He said, 3 nights ago, I and these students used to live in the same kind of dorm, if you like, the student accommodation. He said, 3 nights ago, it was the time of tahajjud, namaz-e-shab, just before Fajr. That special time, I took a walk towards your accommodation and I walked past your rooms. And all of your lights were off. And none of you were, I could not even hear any recitation of Quran or namaz-e-shab or dua or istighfar. So I said to myself, all of this zahmat and all of this trouble which we are taking, and if people are not going to implement those things which we are teaching, then fine, let's just stop teaching. These are not intellectual exercises we are just doing here. This is not like this mimbar is so sacred and it's such an honor for whoever comes up here and speaks. But honestly, this is not just information giving for the sake of information, that we feel good that, okay, we heard something new today, how nice. This is da'wat-e-amal. This is an invitation to act. This is an invitation to... So what we want to do in these lectures is not just discuss the intellectual side of spirituality and feel good and nice and, sometimes the goosebumps come on the skin and the hair on the back of your neck and you think, oh wow, that's spirituality. No, that is not spirituality, as we'll discuss. So I need your help. Number one, that you help me by attending and that we can join together these different concepts. Number two, I need you to participate. So I've already found my people tonight who I'm going to pick on. I'm going to ask some questions and I'm going to ask you to answer them. And inshallah, yes, you're all smiling now. Let's see if you're smiling in 5 minutes. But I want you to participate because I want to understand where you're coming from, what your understanding is. There's no point in me pitching something so low that you already know these things. There's no point in me pitching something so high that it goes over all of our heads. Another thing is that you can send your questions at any time. either to me or to any members of the MC, I guess, and they'll make sure that it gets to me. Confidentiality will be maintained. You have my word on that as far as I'm concerned. So, inshallah, if you're ready, let us begin this discussion with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So my first question to you is that when I say or anyone says the word or the term spirituality, what comes to your mind? Maybe it's a definition, maybe it's a phrase, maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a person, maybe it's something you've heard, maybe it's your own experience. So when I say we're going to discuss spirituality, what does that mean to you? What is spirituality? God nearness. God nearness. So is it the same as taqwa? Because taqwa as well, we kind of say God nearness, God awareness, God. So are you equating the two? Do you feel taqwa and spirituality is the same thing? Basically, okay, good. What else? Who else wants to chip in? Righteousness. So righteousness means what? Like good conduct, yeah? That's what we call righteousness, okay? Good conduct. So very similar to God awareness or taqwa. Yes, what else? Any other? I'll take one more. Sukoon. So shall I try and define it? You mean kind of peace and tranquility? So it's like a feeling. So spirituality is like a feeling. It gives you a feeling, okay? So these are very common, very, very common responses, you know. Again, I would question a couple of them. For example, taqwa, is it the same as spirituality? If it is the same, then why don't we just say taqwa and leave it at that and discuss taqwa? Because we have many, many things on taqwa, for example. Righteousness. How do we define righteousness? What kind of, is it just any old righteousness? Sukoon, for example, that's a feeling or it's a state. What if people are not in sukoon? Are they not spiritual? You know, so we have to look at this nicely. We have to look at this comprehensively. What I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying any of the three responses were wrong, but I'm saying we have to be very accurate and precise. In Islam and in the study of Islam, we try this to be as precise as possible, because these are very, very interesting concepts and they're very special. So we have to try to be as precise as possible. Okay, now second question. This is a much easier question. Do you find the religious discussion around spirituality frustrating? For example, have you picked up books on the subject and you feel you can't get anywhere, or it doesn't make sense, or something's just not right, something bestu nati, it doesn't sit well with you? Is anyone here frustrated by the things they've heard or read about spirituality? Sometimes. Sorry, who said that? Yeah. Like what? Give me an example of something. Okay, concept of creation. Alam-e-arwah. Those concepts which are very difficult to understand. Alam-e-arwah, the world of the souls. What happened before this world, the primordial realm. All those kinds of things, right? Okay. What else? Anyone else get any frustrations with spirituality? Are the concepts easy to understand? Because the concepts are sometimes very, very flowery language. Hard to understand sometimes. Difficult concepts, difficult things. Sometimes in spirituality, we go towards poetry and these kinds of things. Not everyone likes that. Like, what is all this poetic stuff? Just give it to us straight. Sometimes we have lots of personalities which maybe not everyone is agreed that they were good or bad. That's another whole area of spirituality, which even within the madhab of Shiaism, people are not united on. So we have to be very careful. Do you see how just in these few minutes, we have to be very, very careful. The way we discuss, how we discuss, and the things that we discuss, inshallah. But if we support each other, and if I get feedback from you, and if you give me your attention, inshallah, night after night, as we go through these brilliant months of Rajab and the beginning of Sha'aban, inshallah, we can get somewhere. I actually think there are many, many misconceptions and frustrations about spirituality. Maybe you've been very polite and you haven't opened up. But I think myself, when I think about spirituality, I think there are many misconceptions and frustrations. For example, one of them is this, and you'll hear this a lot, and maybe you yourselves have said this kind of thing. For example, one thing which is said is that there are people in our families, in our communities, in our jamaats, who are very, very good at doing ibadat. Musalla, they're there for hours. Du'as, they pray every single du'a. Zikr is there, Quran is there, namaz-e-shab is there. Usually, we look at the older generation because usually they are more like this. But then the frustration and the confusion comes in because then people say, well, you know, they don't have any understanding of what they're reciting. They lack that education, they lack that understanding. They're just reciting without any ma'rifat, without any recognition. Or sometimes those people are reciting a lot, but then they have some ethical issues. They do ghibat, they put other people down, they have some bad habits. So this is a question, this is one of the frustrations in the community. You've heard people yourselves, and I've heard them, and we've all been in these conversations, unfortunately. Namaz ma pehli line ma ubho che, but he stands in the first line of namaz, but. So it gets frustrating because people, especially the younger generation, they get turned off. Because they're like, what is this spirituality? If you're doing all this ibadat, but then outside you're doing X, Y, Z, then what kind of spirituality is this? And on the other side, we see that, for example, and usually, this is the younger generation, not always, but I'm just giving stereotypes. Usually in the younger generation, you find the different side of the coin. Maybe they don't do much ibadat, maybe they're not on the musalla much, maybe they're not reciting the lambi du'as, but they have much more education. They are much more educated, they have much more ma'rifat. They probably read more, they've probably heard more. In their generation, there's a lot more critical thinking. But now this is also frustrating. Because the older generation are looking at them and thinking, Atlu jane che, he knows so much or she knows so much, but still they are going into sins. They're doing X, Y, Z sins, for example. So that is also a frustration. Now, another frustration is that when we talk about spirituality and the practices of spirituality, people are very quick to dismiss. And this is something I want you all to be very careful of, that when we are discussing these things, don't fall into these traps. These are the traps of shaitan. He will try to bombard you with negative thoughts to turn you away from this path. He wants you to think, this person prays namaz-e-shab, but then does this. He wants us to think, this youth knows so much about Islam, but he can't even stop sinning. He wants us to think this about each other. Why? So that we lose confidence in this path of spirituality. He wants us to gossip about each other. He wants us to hold on to our petty squabbles and our petty issues. Why? So that we don't concentrate on the bigger picture. Be very careful. Another thing which people say is that when we hear the stories of the ulama and the imams about how they were spiritual, they say it is not possible to live like this in this time, in this century, in this country, in the West. It's not possible. These are all Juna Zamana Niwatu. These are all things from the olden days. That is a misconception. 100% misconception. And we'll discuss these things. Another one is that people say, but we are not masoom. Hame to masoom chhe j nahi. We are not masoom, so how do you expect this from us? That's another misconception. Another one, and this is the big one which I want to address very, very soon, either tonight or in the very, very next couple of lectures, inshallah. People say that if we embark upon this road of spirituality, with all those practices and all those things, then life will become very boring. Zindagi ma maja kya rehse? This is also a misconception. Because, let me tell you, the one who has embarked upon spirituality and has a relationship with Allah is happier in this world, more happy than you can imagine, more happy than anyone else on the face of this earth. My teacher used to say, the spiritual person on earth is happier than the non-spiritual person, even if they get into heaven. Because there's a special ecstasy, or sukoon, as you said. I would go further than sukoon. Ecstasy. Ecstasy. Where you are overcome with happiness. Happiness which you cannot imagine. Happiness which is something far beyond any material kind of happiness. So the last misconception that I want to just mention, and there are many more, is that if we embark upon this, then life will become very dry and boring. Park that out of your minds. The path which spirituality opens is very special. Why? Because when you embark upon the path of spirituality, it brings something which I call spiritual maturity. The way in life we grow old and we get older and we have different experiences and hopefully we become wiser and we look at things differently. Tell me, when you knew someone who died, and they died and you missed them, did you not look at life differently? Why did you look at life differently? Because something happened in your life. When you had kids, did you not look at life differently? Or if you're a young one, when you finish a certain stage of your education, don't you start to look at life differently? Or when you see certain events around the world, don't we start to reassess our lives and look at life differently? That is a maturity, that is a mental maturity. Sometimes we go through emotional maturity. For example, after marriage, there is a big emotional maturity that everyone has to go through. Generally speaking, people are very emotionally immature. That marriage process speeds things up. And they have to become emotionally mature. Then you have obviously the physical maturity. As you grow older, obviously your body develops, you become more mature. Same thing in spirituality. As you grow spiritually, you become more and more mature. Now, if you're an adult and I ask you to go and, for example, play with toys of a child, you'll say, what are you talking about? I'm an adult, why would I do that? But 20, 30, 40 years ago, you were doing that. We all were. Because we were kids. We used to play. Now, if you tell us play, we'll say we're too mature for that. We've passed that stage. In spirituality, it is the same. When you become spiritual, when you become close to Allah, you begin to see things differently. Then these petty squabbles and these fights and these unbuns, they don't matter anymore. You will say, yeah, at the moment, for example, a non-spiritual person will say, yes, but he did this. Yes, but he did this. Yes, but he did this. And he will hold on to those grudges and hold on to those sentiments and hold on to those hatreds. A spiritual person will say, Did he really do that? I didn't even notice. Amirul Mu'mineen, Imamul Muttaqeen, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. This man is something else. This man is a mu'jiza of Allah. This man is a miracle. You know, he has this one poem where he says, I was walking and I passed by a person of low character who swore at me repeatedly. I was walking and I passed by a person of low character who swore at me repeatedly. I looked back at him and I said to myself, he didn't mean me, he was talking to someone else. How? If me or you are in that situation, what do? We start to pick a fight. We start to swear back. If someone tries to calm us down, what will we say? We say, yeah, but he started it. But he did this. Even in our homes right now, husband and wife, I don't want to open this chapter really, but you did this. Yeah, but you did this first. No, but you did. Yeah, but you did this first. A spiritual person will say, really? Did that happen? I wasn't even aware. I don't even know. You tell a non-spiritual person, forgive this person, they'll think they've lost. It was a battle, it was a war, it was a game, it was a feud. If you apologize, you lose. Spiritual person will say, if I apologize, I win. Non-spiritual person, if you ask them, what's going well in your life? What do you want to achieve in your life? They'll say, I want to climb to the top of the corporate ladder. I want to run my organization. I want to go from mid-level management into high-level management. I want to dominate the boardroom, whatever. Spiritual person, you ask them, what do you want to achieve? They'll say, I want to become humble. It changes the dynamic. It changes the view. You get new eyes which see things differently. You see the world differently. So this is why those misconceptions are misconceptions. Because a spiritual person right now, he will not say, I don't have time. He will say, Khudaya, give me the barakat of time. And Allah will give him. And his life will not become boring and dry, because the maja and the enjoyment which he is experiencing in his worship, he'll say, take the whole world, leave me with my worship. I don't want anything else. These are not theories, these are practices. This is practice, this is proven, this is people having done it. Do you know, in spirituality, usually in any science, how do we do a science? Usually we go from theory to practice, isn't it? In any science, in any discipline, you have the theoretical side, and that leads you into the practical side. In spirituality of Islam, it is the opposite way around. How did we get these spiritual teachings which we are going to discuss? How did we get to them? From the practices of people. They practiced and then they revealed certain things to us. Inshallah, we discuss more as we go along. So spiritual people are able to look at things differently. They discern things differently. They become much more sophisticated in the way they see things. Petty squabbles, petty issues, meaningless practices, running around all day after your daily bread, that doesn't interest them much. That doesn't interest them much. They say, well, Allah has taken care of a lot of my needs. All I need to do is make some effort. I'll make that effort, but I'm not going to kill myself over just making money and living in this world. I have other things to do. I want to spare some time for my Lord. I want to spare some time for the things that my Lord has given me. So they see the world in a very different way. So to finish off, I want to give you the first practical point. This is for every single person, man, woman, child, to do tonight, ready for tomorrow. Because tomorrow we have Jumerat Majlis, it's going to be the next installment. Everyone, the practical point is, do some self-analysis. Ask yourselves, where am I at in my spirituality? This is only you. No one needs to know. I'm even not going to ask you tomorrow, don't worry. Where am I in my spirituality? Am I at my potential? Or am I short of it? If I'm short of it, then how much short? Am I happy with my life? Is my family life the way I wanted it to be? Is this what I envisaged for my life? When I pray, am I happy the way I pray? When I go, if I was to die tomorrow or the next minute, am I confident in front of my Lord? Am I confident? Or am I extremely worried? Do I have lots of things unfulfilled? I want you to ask yourself certain things like this. And more than this, I've just given you some examples. But just do some self-analysis and ask yourself, where are you at the moment? Inshallah. We ask Allah for tawfiq, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Before I go on to the blessed personality of Lady Zainab, I want to mention a couple of things about tomorrow. Rajab is a very special month. But tomorrow is an extremely special day of Rajab. And that is Nimaya Rajab. The 15th of Rajab, the halfway point, is a very, very special day. It is so special that in one hadith it has been described as the most beloved day to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll read you the hadith. وَأَنَّ يَوْمَ النِّصْفِ مِنْهُ وَرَدَ فِيهِ أَنَّهُ مِنْ أَحَبِّ الْأَيَّامِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. This is from the great scholar Agha Mirza Malakiya Tabrizi in his book Al-Muraqabat. Al-Muraqabat, you may not have heard of the book, but it's a little bit like Mafatihul Jinan. It gives you every month the specialty of that month and what you need to do. So he writes the following. He says, the midpoint, the 15th of the month of Rajab is amongst the most beloved days to Allah, and He has reserved certain things in that day for the nation of the Holy Prophet, our nation, the Muslims. What is that? How does that come? Well, this is the hadith now. قال آدم عليه السلام, Nabi Adam said to Allah, Ya Rabb, أخبرني بأحب الأيام إليك. Oh my Lord, tell me about the most beloved of days to you and the most beloved of times. فأوحى الله تبارك وتعالى إليه. Allah revealed to Nabi Adam, Ya Adam, أحب الأوقات. The most beloved times to me is يوم النصف من Rajab, the midpoint, the 15th of Rajab. Why? تقرب إلي. On this day, I want you to seek nearness to me. So tomorrow, whatever you do, make a niyat, make an intention. I'm doing this qurbatan ilallah. Keep Allah front and center in your mind. So number one, taqarrab ilayya, seek nearness to me. How? Biqurbanin. Sacrifice something, for example. Diyafatin. Host someone, do something for someone. Siyamin. Roza. Fasting tomorrow. Extremely high sawab. If you're not on medication, if your health is okay, if you are able to, brothers, sisters, I highly recommend you fast tomorrow. Wa du'ain, and recite du'as. Ask for your hajat tomorrow. Wa istighfarin, and ask for your forgiveness. Wa qawlu la ilaha illallah, and recite this a lot tomorrow, la ilaha illallah. Because Allah says, at the end of time, He says to Nabi Adam, at the end of time, from your progeny, I am going to raise a prophet. La fadhun wa la ghalidhun. He's not going to be rude. He's not going to be a tyrant. He's not going to be cruel to people. He's going to be Halim, Rahim, Kareem. He will be patient, forbearing, kind and merciful to people. What am I going to give this Prophet and his people? لا يسألوني فيه شيئا إلا أعطيتهم. If they ask me for something on the 15th of Rajab, they will not ask me for anything except that I will give it to them, number one. وَلَا يَسْتَغْفِرُونِي إِلَّا غَفَرْتُ لَهُمْ. They will not seek forgiveness from me except that I will definitely forgive them. وَلَا يَسْتَرْزِقُونِي. They will not seek their sustenance and rizq except that I will give them increased sustenance and rizq. وَلَا يَسْتَرْحِمُونِي إِلَّا رَحِمْتُهُمْ. And they will not seek my mercy except that I will give them my mercy. 15th of Rajab, inshallah. As for tonight, we are commemorating the wafat of Bibi Zainab Kubra, salamullahi alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Bibi Zainab is one of those characters. I put her in the same bracket as, for example, Imam Hussein and Imam Sajjad, for example. That their masa'ib and their tragedies and their calamities which befell them are so many that sometimes you don't know where to start. Bibi Zainab, for example, just one or two of those calamities which befell her, if they had befallen anyone else, I think that person would have broken. That person would not have been able to withstand those things. But Janab Zainab is the one we call Ummul Masa'ib. So many masa'ib, so many calamities and tragedies broke upon her, but she did not break. They broke upon her, but she did not break. From a young age, if we trace her life, she loses Rasulullah. Within months, she sees her mother Fatima being attacked in the streets of Medina. She sees her mother Fatima being hit in front of her. She sees her mother Fatima being trapped between the wall and the door. She sees her mother Fatima on a daily basis going and crying and weeping of her sorrows. She then sees how her mother Fatima passes away from this world. How then she was buried in the dead of night with hardly anyone there. She sees her father Amirul Mu'mineen going out of Medina to the wilderness because he had no one to hear his sorrows. He had no one to hear his words. She would see how her father would go and speak in the wilderness to wells, and how the water of the well would gush up with this pain and anger of Amirul Mu'mineen. Then she saw on that fateful night in Ramadan, her protector, her father, the lion of Allah, how he was struck in the mosque of Kufa. They say that when Ali alayhi salam comes back to the house after being struck, Imam Hassan alayhi salam was crying, Amirul Mu'mineen remained strong. Imam Hussein was crying, Amirul Mu'mineen remained strong. But when Amirul Mu'mineen saw Zainab crying, Amirul Mu'mineen broke into tears. He started crying. She saw her brother Hassan, the way he was poisoned, the way his janazah was taken, the way the janazah was prevented even from being buried and had to return back. But nothing and nothing could prepare her for that day of Ashura. If we say La yawma ka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah, if we say there is no day like your day, O Aba Abdullah, we must say there is no day like your day, O Zainab. They say after the Shahadat of Aba Abdullah, Janab Zainab and the women, they were so broken, they were so much struck with grief. They were in the tents. All of a sudden they hear a smashing noise. They thought what? That people had come to throw things. It was like glass bottles being broken. When they come outside to look, what do they see? They see that every body has been picked up from the battlefield except for one body, and this is the body of Aba Abdullah. And that noise they heard was the smashing of the bones of the body of Aba Abdullah. Janab Zainab looks after the children. She looks after Imam Sajjad alayhi salam even. She looks after Sakina. She looks after all the children. That night she spends, when all the tents are burning, when all the doors are closed upon them, she spends at night outside looking after the children of Imam Hussein. The next morning, the order is given, now take all the ladies, take all the women and bring them. We are taking them to Kufa. They say that each and every lady of Ahlul-bayt was forced to walk through the maqtal of Karbala. Each and every one of them saw their loved ones. Some fell down at the body of Hazrat Qasim. Some fell down at the body of Aliyun al-Akbar. Some fell down on other beloved martyrs that they had. The Rawi, the narrator says, every lady cried. Every lady lamented. But there was one lament which I will never forget for my entire life. And that was the lament and the grief when Zainab came to the body of Hussein. When Zainab saw the body of Hussein, the way Zainab lamented, I will never forget in my whole life. When she saw the body of her brother, she fell down there, she collapsed there, and then she began to say, A'anta akhi, A'anta al-Hussein, is this really you, O brother? Is this really the body of my Hussein? And then she stood up and she faced Medina, and then she began to cry out and lament, Wa Muhammadah, Wa Muhammad, oh my grandfather Rasulullah, oh my mother Zahra, Hadha al-Hussein, look, this is Hussein, Muqatti al-A'za, the one whose limbs have been cut from his body, the one who is rolling and drenched in his own blood. Allah la'anatullah lil-qawmi al-zalimin wa sayalamu alladhina dhalamu أي منقلب ينقلبون ماتم حسين.
عزیزو فاتحہ پڑھنے چلو زینب کی تربت پر، عزیزو فاتحہ پڑھنے چلو زینب کی تربت پر، لو عابد بھی ہے پڑھتے فاتحہ زینب کی تربت پر، عزیزو فاتحہ نام کی پر چلے ہے شام کو احمد علی و فاطمہ زہرا، وہ مل کر پڑھتے ہیں سب فاتحہ زینب کی تربت پر، عزیزو فاتحہ پڑھنے چلو پر چلے ہیں انبیاء سارے، ملک کی فوج پر فوج صدا تنزیل کی ہے، آ رہی زینب کی تربت پر، عزیزو فاتحہ پر ہم سب کی یہ تمنا ہے، بلا لو شام ہمیں زہرا، پڑھے ہم بھی تو آ کر فاتحہ زینب کی تربت پر، عزیزو
Zainab, 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 چلتی رہی شہ پر چھری روتی رہی در پر کھری مولا علی کی لاڈلی کہتی تھی یہ قسمت میری میں دکھ ترے مشکل کشا میں دکھ ترے مشکل کشا زینب زینب Zainab, 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 بھائی میرا مارا گیا دشت بلا میں بے خطا چینی گئی تیری ردا بنت علی او فاطمہ کیا ظلم کی تھی انتہا کیا ظلم کی تھی انتہا زینب زینب Zainab, 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 قاسم نہیں اکبر نہیں عباس اور سرور نہیں جھولے میں اب اصغر نہیں شبیر کا لشکر نہیں دے اب کسے بن میں صدا دے اب کسے بن میں صدا زینب زینب Zainab, 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 پامال رن میں ہو گیا آدھا کے ظلم و جور سے زہرا کے جو تھے لاڈلے سر کو کٹا کے سو گئے کرتی رہی آہو بکا کرتی رہی آہو بکا زینب زینب Zainab, 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 بھائی پرا ہے بے کفن تیروں سے ہے چلنی بدن ٹکڑے ہوا ابن حسن اجرا ہے زہرا کا چمن اصغر کا جھولا جل گیا اصغر کا جھولا جل گیا زینب زینب Zainab, 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 Zainab. Al-Fatiha.
السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ السلام علیکم یا امیر المؤمنین السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى أخيك العباس وأختك زينب والكلثوم وبنتك سكينة جميع ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي جميع ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإمام الإنس والجان أجل الله فرجا وسخر الله مخرجا وظهورك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.